Hey everybody, it's Katie Newell here, and I am with Dr. Heather Cardin, who is one of our ASCA specialists with Prove It. We both joined the company at the same time almost a year ago, and as you know, I'm a huge fan of what it's done for my health, how it's helped with my autoimmune diseases, how it's helped my husband with his performance. Basically, I'm a big fan altogether. However, even though I have a pretty extensive background and a pretty good knowledge of how exogenous ketones and keto OS are working in my body, I still have a lot of questions that the more I share this, the more things come up that I'm not an expert in. So I'm excited today to be able to talk with Dr. Heather and ask her some of the questions you all keep bringing to us, that you keep asking on the Ask a Specialist tab in Prove It, and just kind of see where we go and what we can learn.
Yeah, and we just decided to put this video together. We just were at my house chatting, talking about different ways that people can benefit from using higher fat diets, keto diets, sharing some recipes. So we are not rehearsed. We just decided to roll the camera. We were able to spend the weekend together at the Kansas Chiropractic Association and talked a lot about what fats can do for our body and what our family and friends are experiencing. So we thought maybe we have other people out there, or family, friends, or neighbors, that would want to know some of the same information that we were having a private conversation about. So we are just going to share our conversations with you and hope that you can get some benefit out of it.
I know. Some of what we talked about at like midnight when we should have been sleeping, right? Okay, so the first one that comes up over and over, and I know you've addressed it, but I really want to dig a little deeper in how keto OS, why it is safe for pregnancy and breastfeeding, what exactly, like how it impacts that.
So the great news about it is that babies are born in ketosis. If you look at a newborn baby, their heads are really, really big. That's because there's a lot of ketone, the brain's really big and needing a lot of fat. And if we look at breast milk, if you've been a breastfeeder, if your milk's out there, you'll see a nice 1/3 fat on there. And that we really want, because fat's a primary source of fuel for brains. The brain is about 60% fat. And then I know, because my kids are older, Katie's kids are younger, that my oldest is 21 and a half. Anyway, I've noticed that they started actually, if you fill up the carnation can or Similac, they're actually putting MCT oil, which is a fat, or they're putting DHEA, which is a fat. So even the baby formula companies have recognized that we need to put more fats into the formula. So whether you're a breastfeeding mom and you're taking keto OS, or if you're a formula feeding mom, the kids are getting the fat. So I think it's a wonderful idea for breastfeeding moms to increase the fat in their breast milk, and it helps them recover, especially if you had a hard labor or you've had stress in your day. Ketones are also natural anti-inflammatory. So not only are they super great for the baby's brain, they actually help the mom recover much faster during pregnancy, if you're having aches and pains, or post-delivery. I think it's a wonderful thing to help reduce inflammation in our body and then really get our breast milk up to a nice, big, healthy fat level.
Okay, and I know we're obviously not here to diagnose anything or treat anything, but one thing too, I've had several friends who are pregnant and want to use the product. Their doctors are hesitant. Do you know why that would be?
So it's kind of funny to me, because Dr. Spock is like the grandfather of all pediatrician books. And if you go back, and I think his book was written in like 1942, so don't quote me on that, but he actually has a big section there that excess refined carbohydrates from breads and cereals actually determine the weight of someone. So somewhere in the 1970s, we kind of switched from a higher fat diet, which we were doing back when Dr. Spock was promoting good health and wellness for babies, to a higher carbohydrate diet. So we've seen that big shift there, and I think medical doctors are so bombarded with paperwork and trying to keep up on the latest and greatest of HIPAA and medications, that this is just simply passed by, and it's something they're not really familiar with because it's not taught in medical schools. MDs, in their defense, or DOs, they do not get information on nutrition. So in their defense, they didn't get the information, they haven't studied fats, and it's all about the Krebs cycle and how we use our fuel. So some of it is, if they're not informed about it, they're going to say no. So you just have to give your doctor a little bit of time, but know that ketosis is a natural thing. We do it all the time. Even if you probably woke up and if you're an elite athlete and checked it, you're going to find yourself in ketosis. So it happens in and out during the day throughout our bodies, but totally safe for pregnant women. I wouldn't use any caffeine. It's, if you're worried about gluten, it's gluten-free. If you're worried about soy, it's soy-free. It's non-GMO. It doesn't have any shellfish or any nuts. So for any of those reasons, it's a great supplement, because most obstetricians are actually recommending a really good prenatal multivitamin. So for me, this is an extra thing I would do. I would add a prenatal with a good omega blend, and then some keto OS, just to make sure we're getting all the fats that we need for our bodies and for the baby's bodies.
Awesome, I love that. So let's transition into giving it to children. And I honestly, just as we were talking now, realized that both my kids' first food was avocado because we lived in LA at the time, and that's when people were like, you don't need rice cereal. I'm like, oh, I was ahead of the curve, and I didn't even realize it.
I actually got in a conversation. I said avocado is God's butter, and somebody connected me and said coconut oil is God's butter. So I'm sorry about that, but I'm like, I always say avocado is God's butter. But that's exactly right. Babies need fat, and as we start to get teeth, that's really just biology or God's way of saying start chewing food. So when we transition to food, we want to keep that same high-fat content that we talked about with breast milk, that we talked about with even baby formulas. Again, looking at Dr. Spock's book back in 1920s, he said the same thing. Keep giving healthy fats to babies from nuts and seeds and oils. We don't want to give them lettuce. But you're right, when we transition to foods, we don't need to start with grains and cereals because they're really not essential for growth. Fats are what is essential for growth, and we did the same thing. We didn't start with red meats. We transitioned our kids to goat milk and then to white fishes and red fishes rather than red meats and white meats. So it is safe for all children to have, and when we really look at about what's happening, we're seeing an epidemic of really just kids being unhealthy. Like
Didn't you teach me 1 in 3 children will be obese? And then I know personally, like I've learned that the increase in ADHD, autism has increased about 300% in the last, don't quote me, but in the last like 8 years, I want to say.
Yeah.
Which, that's since, my oldest is 8, and just to watch the way that's increased, it's sad. There's so much going on in the classroom, like you can't bring, like the entire school other than in the lunchroom has to be peanut free, and, there's so many safe snacks, and it's crazy.
Yeah, but the safe snacks aren't really food items.
No,
like it's
not.
so funny, like you said, like we never had a peanut free zone when I was going to school, and I know now even when my kids were in school, my oldest again is 21, that there was still a peanut free zone, and the safe snacks have to be no peanuts, but it's okay to bring red jellyfish, like it's okay to bring red dye number 40, it's okay to bring nitrate. So I am just baffled by that. But if we go back to the basics again, what Dr. Spock had written about nutrition for kids, it was about healthy vegetables, healthy fruits, healthy fats, healthy meats. But I'm like you, it's almost heartbreaking to see the rise in allergies and to see the rise in ADHD and to see the rise in autism and diabetes. That's the number one diagnosed disease coming around with kids is diabetes. It used to be an old person's disease.
So how would you suggest then, if a parent is trying to add healthy fats and using keto OS to their kids' diet, what's the best way to transition?
I would,
because you don't want to give them a whole pack right away.
No, but just think of the biology that our brains are 60% fat. So when you're looking at their plate that they're eating or what they're drinking, think 60% fats. And the great thing is that keto OS is just a drink of a blend of ketone salts.
Like drinking
absolutely
cream.
They're drinking water, they're drinking milk anyway, so just use and dairy is a big allergy for a lot of kids, so just use coconut milk or almond milk, flax milk. You could put it in with LaCroix. So the simplest thing is just to let them start drinking it, and most kids will drink their appropriate size. They're not going to drink, most kiddos aren't going to drink this much water at a setting. They're going to have like a 2 or 4 ounce, so just mix it appropriately to the direction. So if it's one packet with 18 ounces, give them just 4 ounces of that. So they're getting 1/16 of that.
The day.
And if kids like something, they'll crave it. Like my kids,
mine
if I
love
put
it.
strawberries or blueberries out, they're all over it. But now that they're older, if there's a slab of ribs, they're all over that. So you want to transition over to healthy fats, but you don't want to drink everything. You can add butter to your broccoli. We have olives here. You can certainly add that. But what is I'm interested. What are your girls' favorite fat food?
Favorite fat foods? Guacamole. I would definitely say we do a lot of buttered veggies. Actually, when we go out for breakfast and they get eggs, they don't like the way they taste as much because they're being cooked probably without fat.
And they're not organic eggs. I don't even know where they came from.
Yes, who knows? But like I'll cook. They both have 2 eggs every morning, and I'll cook it in about a tablespoon of the grass-fed Kerrygold butter, and they love it. And they ask for like extra butter, so we do that. We do avocado, chicken thighs over chicken breasts, which honestly, chicken breasts.
Okay, but remember the
don't taste very
days
good.
when we were talking, because your husband's a chef, and
Right.
and I'm a little bit older than you are, but we were actually cooking hamburger, and we were burning it through hot water and pressing it. I remember just having chicken breast and throwing all the meat and thighs away.
Oh,
but
yeah.
now, if you go to my refrigerator, I've got
we
bones
throw away
saved for
the
bone
breast
breath.
of it. Well, and that's what, speaking of hamburger meat too, that's another one that we do a lot of is grass-fed, 100% grass-fed, grass-finished hamburger meat for the omega-3s and the CLAs, the conjugated linoleic acid. And whenever I read a recipe that says cook then drain, I'm like, why would I drain my wonderful healthy fats away? Like, no way. So we do a lot of taco salads and
That's
stuff
perfect.
like that.
If your kids if they're used to having a Sprite or something or an orange Fanta, I would say the Keto OS has an orange flavor. Mix it with like the orange LaCroix, just even plain club soda, and put a little bit of extra orange stevia in there, and they can still have their soda. You could make like an orange lemonade out of it with like lemon spa water or sparkling water or club soda, just something so they feel like they're getting it. But instead of giving them the soda, instead of giving them the milk, then you could make a chocolate milkshake with it. I mean, you could put it with coconut oil or almond milk and
especially the new
cocoa
flavor coming
powder.
out.
Yeah, so you could mix it up and they could
Chocolate
have
swirl.
a smoothie with that. So they can have it lots of different ways. So you just want to start out slow and let them know when we think of their brains are 60% fat. You look at the plate of food. I should have 60% of my calories coming from fat. So
That's
we don't need
genius.
the corn and the potatoes and the beans. You know, it's okay for kids to have some carbs from sweet potatoes
handful.
and squash. Yeah,
Or a handful of rice. Or a
Right.
handful of
and remember, their handfuls are a lot smaller than ours. So infants are a tablespoon or two, and it would be the same thing.
absolutely.
But I have to tell you, I'm interrupting. I'm super excited to be able to share this with my nieces and nephews, because when we look at the generations of what's happening, their generation or my kids' generation is not expected to outlive the current generation.
I
So
know,
if
that's
we can
sad.
reverse that and start giving them more healthy fats, we transition from breast milk to formula that's high in fat, more fats in their diet, snacking on olives instead of French fries, or if you're going to have a sweet potato, put a whole bunch of butter and a whole bunch of cinnamon on it, and leave the brown sugar and marshmallows to grandmas on Thanksgiving
For
Day.
Thanksgiving, once a year.
And kids will tell you if they
Well,
want
pickles too.
it. Oh, absolutely.
And talk about salt real quick and how important. Talk about salt versus salt. Let's put it that way.
Well, if your kid's craving salt, I would say let them have it. Don't cook with it because it denatures the food and we lose the minerals from it. But the old diner salt that we were told not to have, I'm still saying don't have the old diner salt, which is sodium
NaCl.
chloride. Yeah, don't have that stuff. But Himalayan sea salt, kosher salt, natural salt, even Morton's light salt, they've got the magnesium and they've got the proper blend of really macronutrients that we can't get any other way. If you cook it, you denature it, and you also dry your food out. So I always tell people, leave it on the table. If kids want more salt, let them have it, but make sure it's a healthy pink salt because it's super, super sweet. So I would not limit a kid's salt intake unless there's another medical reason. But if they want it, they're running around, they're sweating, they're thinking at school, definitely give them salt. It's actually responsible for 5,000 processes in our body. Every single cell in our body needs fat, and it needs salt.
Does
So
it
I
mean
would-
carbs?
I know. I tell Katie, I'm like, there's no essential carbs, and I think if she hears me say it one more time, she's probably going to start making like a tally drink out of it. But there really aren't essential carbohydrates. There's essential fats, essential amino acids, and we know if we don't get food, we die. We can go about 3 days without water. I'm off target now, but 40 days without food.
Yeah.
But we definitely need fats and salts for better performance and to help our children be healthier.
Okay, let's do one more question on kids because you said the word performance. So talk about how this works for student athletes.
So-
if they're just looking for an edge or something that's safe.
And they're done with breast milk, and they're done,
They're done with breast
breastfeeding.
milk. They're done eating one tablespoon
Yeah.
of food.
They're not
They
drinking
prefer to
milk
come
anymore.
home. I mean, you have 4 almost grown boys. I mean,
Yeah.
I can only imagine what your food cost is per
Well,
month.
food costs is, I would say, it's minimal because I don't buy junk food. I don't buy soda. I don't buy
Chips.
cereals that are expensive. I don't buy pop. I don't buy Gatorade. Any of that stuff that's expensive, I don't buy. But yeah, we'll eat corned beef and cabbage is cheap. But for sports performance, I kind of let them dictate a little bit how they feel. I've generally offered have a half a serving before you get ready for training, and then I had them drink it throughout your training to see how you recover. So they each kind of vary a little bit how they take it. I have one son that likes to take it first thing in the morning because he feels like it wakes him up and gives him more energy
where I
because
am.
we don't do coffee with our kids. But if they work out or have a bigger workout, they'll take it before. If they said, oh, that workout was way harder than I thought, they'll take another serving. So it's kind of like water. Everyone's water consumption is a little bit different. Everyone's fat consumption is a little bit different.
And varies
But,
by day.
Yeah, and if they take too much Keto OS, they're just going to urinate it out. So
That's
there's
a
not
waste.
it's not really a downfall from it, but I think that's great. We kind of transition through all the ages of kids.
Perfect.
So for my high school kids, my middle school kid, I have one in middle school, one in high school, one out of high school, and one in college.
And I've got a first grader and a second grader, and mine are girls. So completely different.
yeah.
But
their need for fats are still really high, and I think for my boys in that growth phase, especially because cholesterol is a fat, and it breaks down into all of our sex hormones: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, pregnenolone. And there's so much research with fats helping growth hormone, whether they're little girls or they're grown boys that can vote this year. So excited for 3 voters. They all need the fat in there, and the higher their BMI or their caloric intake, just some more fat they need. And kids have that intuition, just like when they're nursing. When they're done, they stop, they're full. Toddler style of eating is when they're done, they stop for full. But start with Start with that when they're little, adding fats in there, and then they'll stop when they're done. Don't make them finish their plate if they're not hungry, but offer the fats first, not to fill up on the non-food carbohydrates. And the same thing with my bigger boys. They will eat until they're full and they're done. But we do want them to start with the salads with all the olive oil on it, olives on it, avocados, bacon, all that great stuff. And then move on to, we put butter on our pork if it's dry, butter on broccoli. We put coconut oil on everything. Our desserts are mostly high in fat.
Well, and I think that's what, when I teach and speak at MOPS groups or mothers of young children, one of the questions always is, well, I put the veggies out, but they don't eat them, or I put that out, but they might have been having a barbecue and there's been 3 bags of chips sitting out that their kids have been picking at. And, we're going to grab, if you're hungry, you're going to eat. And so I think that's a huge thing, is reminding people to start, putting the veggies in the dip out for them to munch on while they're waiting with olives, and not, not just carrots and fat-free ranch, but
you're right.
We are all dip and
Americans don't eat when they're hungry. They eat emotionally, and they eat when they're stressed, and they eat when they visually see it because their body remembers how it tastes. But if we were to swing the camera around to my kitchen, you grabbed a bowl of walnuts. I got walnuts and pecans. Another thing I have of nuts and seeds. And if they're out there, the kids just grab them, so they're getting those healthy fats out there. And if you're going to put a veggie tray out, which kids need vegetables, do something that's got a really high oil content to it. So whether it's like a zesty Italian that's got a lot of a really good olive oil in it, or if it's avocado dip, or a dip we like to make is mayonnaise, hot sauce, and a little lime juice, which goes on meatballs and goes on everything, shrimp and pork. So it's just something out there to dip, but combine that with it, or put a good nut butter out there. Maybe blend your nut butter with some Kerrygold butter, and so it's kind of more of a whipping peanut butter, or whipping nut butter, almond butter, macadamia nut butter, and they can put their carrots and celery. And what I have found is if people clean out their cabinets and they put the fats out, the kids will eat them. It's kind of the parents that actually kind of put that roadblock up and they won't eat them. Well, did they have a chance to try it? They have to try foods 11 times before they decide they don't like it.
Absolutely.
And I remember seeing some little girl come into my office. Her mom was getting treated to a little container, black olives, and she put all the olives on her finger, and she was
popping
do
that.
them.
Yeah.
So make
Not
it
so much
fun,
anymore, but
make it fun with food.
Well, and on Pinterest you can find so many cute,
I've not figured out Pinterest.
Well, you're a boy mom that are growing up, and I'm a little girl mom, so that makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, does that wrap up everything we want to talk about with kids? And
Gosh, I think that was a great job. We covered pregnancy, we covered newborn, breastfeeding, which is a newborn, transitioning to foods. I was going to tell you a great recipe that I have tried is a half a cup of macadamia nuts, and you grind them. Put them with applesauce and cinnamon instead of the oatmeal. So you can find lots of really healthy recipes that are higher in fat, that are not traditional, that we thought we had to have the Quaker instant oatmeal. But just remember, as they grow up, their needs for fats will increase, and their calorie increase.
They're going to need more.
And I have found that when kids are hungry, they'll eat what's in front of them. So if you put the chips out, you're right, they'll go for that. But if you put the nuts and seeds and some fat bombs or some dip out, they're going to go for that instead, because if they're hungry, they'll eat.
Exactly.
So, well, thanks for letting me
Well,
share our
thank you,
comfy
Dr.
couch
Heather.
with you
I
guys.
know.
And we hope we brought some value into your home and into your house. And again, I think
Let's do some more of these. What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's great. So
it's fun.
Yeah, let us know what you think, and let us know if this is bringing some value or help you transitioning your body or your house into a healthier home. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.